What is going on, guys? Today we are in a 2001 Mustang Bullet. These things have a special place for me just because my first Mustang was a Bullet. So love these cars. The driving experience is I would say it takes a little bit getting used to. It's not like a modern car, but they are really reliable, super fun to drive. We are going to talk about the most common issues that you'll run into with a new Edge Mustang. Now the Bullet has got some more goodies than a standard GT would. This video is really going to cater to the GT, the Bullet, the V6 models. That engine, you get into some other issues with them. So we're going to stick with the V8 cars, specifically the 4.6 powered cars, the single overhead cam. You get into the Cobras, once again, those are a little bit of a league of their own, but for the majority of new Edge Mustangs that are out there, just V8 GT cars, Bullets, that's what we're covering. Now a lot of these issues will cross over to the Machs and the Bullets, but let's go ahead and get into it. So to start off, I just want to say these things are super reliable cars. The GT as well as the Bullet have the single overhead cam 4.6 engine. We're going to get into that a little bit. That's a few things that are pretty common on these cars with that engine we'll get into. The Bullet has a different intake, a little bit of a different tune than a standard GT is going to. But once again, all this stuff is going to cross over between a Bullet and a GT. Now the first thing we're going to jump into and talk about is the coil packs. The coil packs on this engine, as well as the 5.4 that was in the trucks, are notorious for going out. So misfire codes, whether that be cylinder specific, could be, a cylinder 1, a cylinder 3, whatever it might be, or it may even be a random misfire code. And just like I talked about in my 5.4 video, you've got a coil over every cylinder. These things will go bad. A lot of times it's an intermittent problem, which makes it kind of hard to find. But if you're getting a misfire code on your new Edge, that's a really good place to start. So if you're getting a misfire for cylinder 3, let's say for instance, what you need to do is pull the coil off that cylinder, switch it with another one, reset the code, go drive the vehicle. If that code follows that coil, so if you moved it from cylinder 3 to cylinder 5, now the code is for cylinder 5, you know the coil itself is bad. Another thing to watch out for on the coils is these are notorious for having issues if you get any kind of moisture in here. So keep that in mind. Now, I also want to preference this video with, this is no special order. It's not like one thing happens, specifically more than the other. This is just kind of an overview list of common things that happen with the new Edge. The next thing I want to cover is actually a fuel leak back here by the filler cap. So this is something I ran into on this car when I first bought it. I didn't even know it, but I had somebody that was following me one day, and when I took a corner, they said they saw something spill out of the back of the car right here behind that rear tire, and ended up being fuel. That is one common thing that happens on this, and I'll show you why it happens. So we're here at the back of the car. If we come down here underneath, you can see your filler neck right here. Now where that filler neck goes into the fuel tank, right there, you can see that rubber grommet. Those things are notorious for rotting out, and then basically it allows fuel, anytime it sloshes over, to come out of the fuel tank. This is the rubber grommet that I'm talking about. It is a super simple fix. It literally is just like a big washer that fits into the tank. The filler neck fits tight through it, and so that keeps the tank to the filler neck sealed so nothing can get out. Pretty cheap part, but you do have to drop the fuel tank down to get access to it. Back to the engine itself. One thing that happens on these cars all the time is idle problems. Now it could be stalling at idle, it could be a high idle, but just not idling normal. These cars have what we call an IAC valve, which is an idle air control motor. So basically what that does is air is coming in here into your intake. You've got a throttle body right here. When the throttle body is closed, air can't get into your engine. So what actually happens is some air is diverted around here. This valve will open up or close to keep the idle where it's supposed to be. This thing gets carboned up. It restricts the amount of air that gets into it, or if it's just electrically bad, that will cause your car not to idle correctly. Simple fix. It's literally just 2 bolts that hold it on there. Take that thing off. First thing to look for is it all carboned up? If it is, clean it up, put it back on, see if that fixes the problem. If that fixes it, great. If not, run down to your local auto parts store, pick one up. That'll probably take care of it. The clutch on these actually has an adjustment on it. I did a video on how to adjust the factory clutch on the New Edge Mustang. I will throw a link to that up top here. But that system is notoriously bad, especially as these cars age. So these cars do have a manual clutch, meaning it's got a clutch cable. The clutch, of course, over here has a rod that runs all the way over. You can see that plastic piece right there. When you push the clutch in, you can see it move. There are some plastic teeth on that. Those things, as it gets old and brittle, they break. Adjusting the clutch on this system, when it works correctly, you're simply pulling up on this. You'll kind of hear a pop. That basically is that plastic adjuster clicking to the next setting to make it just a little bit tighter. Now your clutch cable comes out here, makes a big loop down, runs to your transmission. That adjuster, you start breaking teeth off of it, doesn't work quite right. You start putting aftermarket clutches in these things. Most everyone just goes to a firewall quadrant adjuster. So what you'll see on those cars is right here where the clutch cable comes out, there's actually a little set wheel with a piece of, you'll see what thread's coming out of it. That's going to allow you to adjust that clutch in or out as need be. It's not automatic adjusting like the factory one, but it gives you a lot more control and dialing in on where you're setting your clutch. Another thing you see on these New Edge Mustangs is a power steering leak. So the pump itself, the front seal, as it gets old, it has a tendency to shrink up and let a little fluid leak out right basically where the pulley connects onto the front of that power steering pump. Now I've had really good luck with high quality conditioners, putting those into the system, and that will allow that seal to regain some of its size and seal back up. This car, as well as my truck, both had a small power steering leak out of the front of the pump. I was able to put a conditioner in there, run it for a couple thousand miles, and the leak stopped. Now this next thing has to do with the radio. It's more of a quirk in Ford vehicles of this era than it is a problem. But what will happen is you'll be listening to the radio, you'll reach over here to try to turn it down, and the volume will actually go up. What you actually have to do on these is turn it down really slow. That will decrease the volume. If you just reach over here and turn it really fast, a lot of times the volume's actually going to go up. It's a weird thing that happened on a lot of these radios. It also happened in my 99 F-150, so it's just kind of a Ford thing of the era. Other things with this radio is a lot of these cars that came with the Mach sound system had a 6 CD changer. This thing is notorious for breaking. I mean, you'll have your CDs in there, it works one day, next day it doesn't, and your CDs are stuck. You actually have to take this head unit out to be able to get your CDs back. At this point, a lot of people have just went to aftermarket stereos. If you have issues with yours, that's probably your best bet anyway. Is that everything that can go wrong with a new Edge? Of course not. But this was the most common things that I see go wrong with the new Edge Mustangs. There are a few other quirks, ABS issues, air conditioner issues, things like that. Some of the early ones also had some issues with intake leaking, coolant leaks, things like that. But overall, once again, super reliable cars. If you take care of them, they'll run for a very long time. Hopefully you found this video helpful. There's a lot of these new Edge Mustangs out there. They still have a really good following. Actually still have really good aftermarket support, parts support. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like it, subscribe to the channel. See you guys next time.